Yu-Chen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Thank you for being here today. We're going to start off with stem rot. It was the first disease you mentioned in your presentation. It's, as you said, new in coastal lettuce in the Salinas Valley. What's the reasoning for its appearance, and what have you been seeing this year in 2024?
So stem rot is a disease caused by the pathogen Phytophthora, and Phytophthora is known as a water mold that is spreading and survive under wet condition. And in 2023 and also 2024, we have a very wet winter, and that is somehow one of the key components of how widespread the disease ended up getting in 2023 and 2024. And also, as I mentioned, it's a cool season, cool weather loving pathogen, so we mostly see that in spring after the storms.
Certainly. You mentioned it was of the Phytophthora pathogen species. I remember you saying in your presentation that fungicides in California aren't actually registered to handle the Phytophthora in lettuce. Is that accurate?
So that's, to my knowledge, I don't see any fungicide that is registered for lettuce Phytophthora in California. But if anybody has any comments on that, please let me know. And if anybody who wants to look into a trial to register the product, and please let me know.
Certainly. And how does variety play a role with the stem rot? What have you seen there?
So thanks for the question about the variety. So in the lettuce field, a lot of time the growers has several planting in the same lot. And what I see in the field is that in the different planting with different variety they are used for that lot, certainly there are some varietal differences between their susceptibility to the stem rot. Some are somehow more tolerant, and some are more susceptible, and yeah, so that's there are variety differences, and also some romaine and some iceberg. I see some of them are highly susceptible.
Certainly. And another issue you mentioned that coastal lettuce growers are seeing right now, it's not a disease, actually a disorder, as you mentioned, is ammonium toxicity in lettuce. What do we know about this and the fact that it really only affects those young plants?
So ammonium toxicity is old disorder that lettuce grower were fighting for a lot of time, for a long history of time. So ammonium toxicity is a disorder, so it's not a disease, and it is related to during the spring and the winter time, the soil temperature is low, and at that time the enzyme that converts ammonium to nitrates is slowing down. So that leads to the buildup of ammonium, and that's somehow toxic to the lettuce plants. So the young plants at the thinning stage is very susceptible to ammonium toxicity.
Certainly. And with weather being a little cooler in the spring in previous years, have you noticed an uptick in ammonium toxicity compared to, say, a decade ago? What are we seeing in terms of a trend with ammonium toxicity?
Thank you for the good question. So far I have been only with UC Cooperative Extension for 2 years, and these 2 years I did see that ammonium toxicity still is there in our valley. During the springtime it is still there, and the historical data can track back to maybe 2015, 2016, or even more ahead of time. We had that problem for a while, so I cannot say much about how that was because I was not in this position before that.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Since it's a disorder and not a disease, how much can a grower really do in terms of mitigating ammonium toxicity in lettuce?
So we may want to look into the fertilizer practices. So the grower might need to be aware of the rate they are using ammonium-containing fertilizer, or some fertilizer that can convert to ammonium. So they need to be aware of the rate they are using, especially during spring production. We know that's the common season for ammonium toxicity. And also when they place the fertilizer, they want to be not too close to the lettuce because that will injure the plant.
Certainly. And in terms of the diseases and disorders we've been talking about, we've slowly kind of been moving later into the year. I want to talk about Fusarium wilt for a second, because that is, like you said, usually seen around summer, but recently you mentioned that even as early as late spring might be being seen in some of these lettuce fields. Why might it be showing up even earlier than expected?
Thanks for the question. So, adding more to your question, it used to be a South County pathogen that is only in south of Salinas Valley, but right now we see that in North County of Salinas Valley and also even earlier in the season. So, the pathogen is soil-borne, but they can move around with the farmer's equipment, with all the tools you carry over. So, although originally we only see that in South County, but it's moving all the way through the Salinas Valley. And the reason why we are seeing that even earlier, that could be a lot of components. Maybe the variety we use is more susceptible, or maybe there are some severe weather events during the late spring that's caused the stress to the plants. So many different component, environment, varietal, and the pathogen is very aggressive.
Certainly. And one last thing, I mean, if we're, I guess, comparing the the three issues we discussed that growers are dealing with in lettuce, Fusarium wilt, it's an older issue, of course. I mean, in terms of the pressure, is it really comparable to some of these other issues? I mean, where is it on growers' radars?
So I would say that Fusarium wilt, I have heard that from the growers, from the PCA, it's the most common issue they are facing right now. And it is in the soil, so it's really hard to get away from that. And we do have a variety field day a couple months ago in Greenfield that we share with our industry about different susceptibility and tolerance of different lettuce varieties. So that is one of the key to manage the disease. And there could be other management tools. I would love to look into that beside variety and if there are other management solutions for the disease.